Thank you so much for joining me. So we are talking about the Saturn situation, Saturn going through 7th house in Pisces from 2023 till early 2026. And it's going to be a little bit hard for certain people to be able to really define you, understand you. You might have it all pretty well done. You probably know how to talk to people. Maybe you yourself are a fast talker. Maybe you have some money from certain social things. Maybe there are lots of clients that are paying you. Maybe you by now have a very good position in life, basically. So people are very easy. Maybe they're very easy to talk to. Maybe they're very easy to get to know. But they're also a little bit out of your league sometimes, or sometimes you don't fully understand what you can do to make them trust you or to really know what is going on in your community. So there are highs and lows in your social life, and also with your partner or your partner to be. There's going to be a very big change, and there can also be lots of messes. And also some people can come to a certain type of edge with their partnership. For example, if they've been bullying you, they've been drinking, or they've got some unpaid taxes or some really weird things. So not all of it is bad as well. You can also score a partnership or move into a partnership that is more appropriate for you than ever before. Virgo sometimes kind of likes Saturn no matter where he goes, because there is this authoritarian correctness to the planet, and it sometimes likes authority. So in a way, you might have a very correct and knowledgeable partner, or they have to get through a lot of things in order to be knowledgeable and correct. So that means they have to learn a lot, they have to pay some bills, they have to get real, basically, in order to continue with you. So also, if you have a Virgo partner, it's going to be kind of really hard to get to know you for them. But there's going to be quite a lot of changes also that you both might have to do to be able to allow each other to be in each other's stories. So where there's a Virgo, 7th house attracts a lot of question marks, like, are you going to be there? Are you going to be diligent? Did you pay the rent? Did you pay the bills? Did you get it done? Did you take out the trash? And it's not to say that it's nagging, as I understand that some Virgos are known to be nagging, for their nagging kind of questions and nagging emotions. But there are lots of people that really do trust them because they are nagging and they do want to be good at something that they're doing. So Virgo can sometimes also live with a person who they really love and respect and not nag them, but inside they have a lot of torment. And through that very sentiment of torment, things get done. So you don't have to necessarily say it out loud. You don't have to tell a person what you think about them, what you feel about like their life or their decor or anything like that. Yes, you might have a lot of people naturally know or understand that they've got to change something, or they have to be in a completely different system, because it is just so hard to neutralize a lot of the things they have going on if they have you in their life. So usually if people have a lot to do with a Virgo, they've got to fix something, or they've got to change something about themselves. There's a multitasking energy that Virgo brings up, usually for people if they haven't done the work. So in a way, Virgo can also be like a weird sign for any kind of corruption and movements that are artificial. So I would suggest just taking your place. It is hard also to say that, because I know a lot of people would be very disgruntled about me saying that. Taking your place neutrally and subtly, basically. It's not one of those signs to really get things going on a big scale, and especially not now. I feel that Virgo is not meant to shine the light on other people or be too disgruntled with them as well, although maybe it has to be said or it has to be done. So I can kind of understand if you like policing certain people, and if you have a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings, to be able to say certain things. I feel that some of you will have to pay a lot later in time. So also not to over grunt it and not over move it or not over shift it, I think is a must, because I think some Virgos will not have the focus later to fix certain things if the movements in society or the movements with other people are too vast. And then, yeah, a lot of other people are interested about you because Saturn is in the opposite sign. So there's something healthy, fine, delicious, funny, and free about you. You know, so if Saturn is in the opposite sign, you naturally don't have that weight on your shoulders, but you might not have any gravity. So that means that in certain situations, it might not be enough what you do, or it might not be significant enough what you have created. So there is a lot of talk and a lot of weight going towards somebody else or somewhere else. Somebody else is going to get it done, maybe, or someone else will have that weight on their shoulders and that responsibility, but you. So, for example, if you have a Virgo sun, it might be very easily done without you. And it's okay that other people are going to have to struggle, and a lot of other people are going to have to be there, and you don't have to always face the responsibilities if you are used to that, which is always very nice. And sometimes might even be annoying for some Virgos if you've always been asked to provide or do certain things, and suddenly that weight is so far off your shoulders that you're basically hardly noticed. And yeah, some Virgos might also be seen as very clinical people or not very organized people suddenly. Maybe people might think that you are hiding the truth. Maybe people might think that you're not doing enough to get you through the day, or there's certain people that will think, well, Virgo doesn't pay me back enough, or they might think Virgos are not worthy for something because Saturn, the sign of truth and time and structure, is an opposite sign. So it's as far away from you as possible. And quite a lot of us with any Virgo in our sign, in our chart, we have to be very, very kind and healthy and conscious of other people because they are struggling and you aren't. So unless you have a first house Pisces or a Pisces moon, it might be just kind of like an easy time. So if you have a lot of planets elsewhere, nothing to do with Pisces, it could be quite an easy time. And some people are going to naturally lift you up and want to be around you. So starting with 2023, as I said before, 2023 being the rabbit year, and the prognosis for 2023, you're one of the luckiest people, and you might get to do a lot without having to struggle and suffer and even doing nothing at all. You know, it's like you do nothing at all, but you do a lot. So like anything that you're doing could be very clean and happy and karma free. If you imagine Saturn being kind of like a karma-based planet, and it could be that you do so much fun and good things that you don't have to work a day in your life. Also, quite a lot of Virgos might not have to work out, might not have to try so hard, might not need to like necessarily barter or sell their goods. They might not have to, you know, turn heads or make so many different adjustments to themselves in order to survive. And also their work basically is done, finished. So I think that with a 6th house transit in the previous times, you might have learned so well how to function and how to organize yourself. You basically have done it, and you're probably one of those very beautiful, very kind, very slinky personalities that gets to be behind the wheel without even noticing that you are. But there's so many other people that don't like you also because you might feel like you're not doing anything now. Also, this is kind of a big thing to talk about. Some people probably have gotten to know you through the years as like a worker or like a person that tries so hard sometimes. And then to see you during this transit as somebody who doesn't want to work at all and just says, actually, I just want to have a good day. I just want to be happy. I just want to experience the miracle of life. I just want to do whatever I want. It's really hard for some people, especially if they have developed a personality with you that is based on your service or your servicing nature. So being without service now and having absolutely nothing to do with any hard work or hardship for certain Virgos, that's going to be very hard for some. So for example, if you have people close to you, or they've been in your life for a very, very long time, they might not be able to commit to go further with you in some ways. So yes, there can be breakups. Now, this is probably kind of a good video to watch now for some of you guys. Breakups because you don't feel good enough to these people, quote unquote, good enough, because you are not working hard enough. I actually think, to be honest, that's the best. Not having those people around is better, but sometimes they're family. So, for example, if your family has groomed you to be a very hardworking person and has provided you too much opportunity to step up and to carry them and to hold them, and then suddenly you just say, actually, I don't want to do that. Actually, I don't want to be part of this picture. You might get a lot in your life. So stepping out of servitude and not wishing to hold another person up and starting to rely on somebody else to do the work for you is the best. Is the best, and not taking care of anybody. Also, seventh house Saturn, as full of principles as it is actually very lucky. So to me, it feels that Libra, seventh house, at all, Libra house, seventh house, has a nice simple vibe. And yes, it is very Venetian for some people, but I don't think so. I think it has a very Saturnian energy because of its symmetrical nature. It loves its symmetry. And if you basically just enjoy your day and you just enjoy to kind of get by and just have a good time, you'll be probably given quite a lot more than you expect. So just the ability to release and say, actually, no thanks, I don't want to work so hard, I don't actually want to be part of this picture, you will receive a lot more. So stepping out of chaos and other people's respect or appreciation of you based on some grand feats that you have ever delivered, and also being a person that self-respects based on certain feats that you have ever established. I think that's going to be very, very good to forgive and forget, and just allow it that you don't like it, and that you don't maybe like also other people for those feats that they make, and allowing that hero and that bleeding heart and that sort of very, I suppose, religious or spiritual expression of what a good person is, to live your life, and not to any longer count on something like that to happen. So for example, if you were brought up like Catholic, or if you're brought up in a certain culture where you are expecting like to be a giver, and people expect of you to give, like it's just, also certain other religions and cultures really expect people to just be completely selfless, and you're just like, actually, you know what, I want to enjoy my day. That becomes a problem. But if you don't want to experience those social pressures, I think you'll get a lot more out of life. If you wanted to, you could just move on. And I know that some people feel very, very unsafe if they're in certain grounds where there are no authorities. For example, there's no church, there's no choir, there's no pastor, like nobody's telling you how to live. And you basically get to break free and do whatever you like. Not every single person is that self-nurtured to be able to experience life in just natural, organic states like that. And a lot of people suffer from just the idea of being on their own, or not having a pastor. So I think that some people can do very, very well, and they can probably go very, very much beyond with their experience, just because everything heavy is on the other side of them. It's like the opposite end of them. All of those things that you've ever been taught might be coming to the surface to be unraveled. I feel that some people are going to have to start over again, and yes, don't be afraid if your relationship or marriage or conservative past or any partnership basically falls because it's just too dark, or it's too maybe even emotional, or it's too futuristic to be able to hold you. So also, like, some people are going to be a part of a completely different journey. So the truth will set you free, and Saturn will at last crumble probably all of these different marriages, associations, and groups that basically don't matter. And they keep on weaving a story that is based on hardship or nervous tension, which I think you are very weird about sometimes. Like, why do I feel this feeling? It's like you're just basically probably tuning into everybody, and you're just picking up what they're feeling, and all of these commitments and expectations are just like too heavy on your heart. So the worst thing probably that can happen is getting rid of everything in your life. Like if you can imagine even having a huge catharsis, like a huge storm, and just getting rid of everything or everybody in your life, that probably also has to be fine and part of your future. I think that there are some people that are going to be really not a part of your life because they're not going to be able to be. Then they're going to have to start over again, and you don't. That's the thing. Also, very likely that if you have a big change, like a catharsis with somebody, you might not be the one having to go to square one and pull that weight unless you really want to be in those groups, which is not great. So I feel that some of you guys will brainwash yourself into having a hard time, but most people won't have to experience that. I feel that many Virgos can just go, but the people that leave you behind or the people that judge you probably might have to have a certain type of initiative question mark as to where they're going to be and what they're going to do. So, for example, having people leave your life, having also, like, say, people leave your house or leave your job or leave any territory where you are. It's not a question of where they're going to next so much as to how well you are doing just because something has gone. You know, I actually feel that almost everybody that leaves is like a blessing in a way. There's going to be a big kind of a cleansing and washing away of people for some Virgos. In a very, very good way, and then also a better chance to get things right. And I know not everybody's going to agree with me, but in this particular case, if people are leaving, if people have something else to do, great, go for it, like go for it. And I think there's going to be very little Virgos left with any outdated previous phenomena by the end of it. So it's going to be very nice and clean. Those previous clothes, identities, beliefs, and systems of conduct are just going to be absolutely gone, and all of those projections and you have to do this and you have to do that, they're going to basically become obsolete. And I feel that a lot of you guys will just stay young and fresh and pure and start over where you probably don't even necessarily want to go yet right now. But it's true, I feel that Saturn going for Aries eventually from 2026 is going to be a huge contrast for some of you guys, and it's going to be very hard to be there among certain people, but that's going to be later on. At the moment, I would just enjoy that brightness and lightness that Saturn in the opposite sign would naturally give, and commit if you like. Social commitments, partnerships, organizing things, maybe something that was really out of your league before is happening now. It's very nice to update your circle of friends. If you really wanted to, could even ask if certain people can be part of your journey, part of your life, as some of you might be aiming very low in terms of like who is around you and who you're learning from. But then there's going to be some people that are just not going to be a part of your life. It's going to be very easy to commit to somebody and to disconnect from someone else. So switching partners or switching habits is very, very fast. It's not really all about that. It's not really appropriate to say that people need to like turn into these, I suppose, people that just like look around and shop around for love and get into different relationships and perspectives on life and get to know many people from different walks of life. I don't think that's a necessary thing to say. I feel though, like, for example, if you really wanted a certain type of tribe or a certain type of person to be around you, maybe it's a good time to ask, but that's also not to say that it's safe. There is a type of person that might sometimes linger on too long in certain situations. I sometimes have these people come to me, so they've been like brought up in a certain way, they never left their home and they don't want to change their lives, and then only later they realize that through not having enough friends and not having enough energy, they couldn't really eventually develop. That's really, really hard to see. But some people are going to eventually walk out of that as well. So it's not just about friendship hunting, though I definitely think that breaking down the previous system of trust and making new systems of trust is one of the ways to get behind the wheel during this time and have more control. It's not just about this. I also actually feel maybe it's a little bit too racy for a lot of people. It's like getting to know you, and then through that knowledge of who you are, without certain weight on your shoulders, without certain anger or certain commitments, you might just naturally evolve into just different type of vibration, which then would attract and deflect certain people. And the best thing basically I can say to you guys in terms of advice, keep yourself together. Don't let people bully you or tear you apart. It's really hard if people get very illogical and irrational and they want you to do things you never had to do. And if people don't like you unless you're committing to something that they want you to do. So it's like, unless you're working so hard, then who are you? That's really difficult. Bullying, being bullied, that's the main thing. And then basically trying to wake people up also is a very bad thing. I feel that you might be on the surface caring, but inside actually not being able to care about somebody else in your life, because Saturn would make it kind of drab or not entirely opportune to be around people, curiously. They would be the drabber aspect of your life for the next 2.5 years. So it's not going to be that easy to give in and just to allow or understand one another. But it is going to be inevitably good, because it's like training wheels. Like where Saturn goes, it's like a bit of weight and a little bit of respect given to certain things and not so much to others. And it's going to basically reframe your frame of mind, or reframe your ideas or association as to where people are actually from, and what they have to do with you, and also what to kind of collaborate on, and also what not to collaborate on. And it's going to be very easy and healing to basically walk out of there. So to me, it just looks like a whole bunch of things that you thought you really loved and cared about before becoming very uninteresting. So it's a very unorganized way, I suppose, to see life. But sometimes it's just what happens. Like tissues grow old and then they start to shed, and there's no way of really limiting that process. If you are shedding now and you're noticing that you are no longer interested, or you are no longer interesting for some people, just keep on experiencing that shedding process. It's not nervous now maybe to be able to shed. Shedding is part of the eliminatory process, and seventh house is the house of elimination as well. And being kind of fine that like things just basically become obsolete and then they move on, or they change, and being caring also about those people that were there before and now cannot handle it. For whatever reason, being unable to be a friend to somebody also because of the times, and finding it too hard or too sticky or just too nervous or angry or empty or too envious to be around certain people. It's not your choice. It's just like, look, this is just not going anywhere. And that needs to be sensed even before it's time. So the worst stuff like that happens with us is people lingering around you, or you lingering around them, and fully understanding that the work is done and maybe there is nobody that needs it now. It's like, I don't actually have to. So it's about noticing where things have grown old, basically. You know, it's like if you can imagine noticing when the seasons have changed and you have to move on, you know. Noticing where there's no fruit or there's no flowering, just noticing where things are no longer viable, or there's just nothing you can do. Unless you are in a very, very formal marriage, for example, if you really believe in marriage and you've been brought up all your life to believe it, there's no need to necessarily divorce or change anything. Also another thing, you can just shift your attention and your weight in another direction. For example, sometimes people have children, or sometimes people just have different things that they enjoy, so that they don't overly commit to the presence or the person that is potentially starting to be uncomfortable or angry for them. So it's not about generating any more energy. Also, sometimes people do have certain homes and marriages that are just a shell for them. It's not to say that that is good either. It's not to say that that is good. But if you're experiencing a very messy relationship, we suddenly understand, wow, like we've been together for 7 years and I'm just so over it, I'm so broken. It depends on the individual, and also depends on your karmic beliefs. Like, say, if your church or religion believes that you have to stay, and if you are a really adamant, faithful person that wants to keep your family system together, I mean, it kind of depends on you. I do understand definitely some people cannot stay, and it is not safe for certain people to stay in certain territories, a certain situation. But for some people, there are still wake-up calls to be had, and still growth to be experienced, to be enjoyed, and marriages and different situations that potentially have run their course. It's just kind of not all of us also have the choice to just move on and marry somebody else or try again. It sort of depends. So it depends on you and how your life is going. But yeah, there are always going to be messes where Saturn is, because some things are not, how can I say, in sufficient organization, or things are not done well from the roots up. And if things are not true, if they're false, it is likely to fall or to experience some kind of deformity. But there is a way, of course, and there's lots of families that are still going, even though that flame is gone or that relationship has moved on way before the marriage basically could. So that's the thing. I mean, that's probably a good reason to see a psychic, or like a family member, or somebody else, or a therapist, if you wanted to go through that. It's a very hard topic to face. You know, it's a big fear for a lot of people, knowing that they don't have anything left anymore. And also when it comes to certain sustenance or certain groups of people or certain ideas, you know. But there are always going to be ways to survive and succeed beyond certain systems and structure. It kind of depends. And maybe I understand more, actually, just from talking about this, why certain people simply don't believe in marriage. They're like, you know, we don't need this. You know, I understand why. But we also have to be kind of good to each other. I think we also got to be knowing that there are certain systems, certain collectives in the world. Like, for example, in Saudi Arabia, you know, in different parts like of Eastern Europe and Asia, many places in the world, certain places in Africa that don't have any other system. They don't have any other system, so it's just like you get married and that's for life, and you just deal with it. And not many people are so lucky to have choices later on in life as well. And not many people are very lucky, healthy, and happy later on to form a completely different partnership or to change their mind or worldview. So it's like a very delicate topic if the marriage is actually falling apart, or if a certain comfortable relationship with somebody is falling apart. It's not a comfortable topic. But that can be evolved and resolved. It's just important to not close your mind off. You know, if you wanted to, for example, if you are part of a Catholic family, to not necessarily seek advice just from the pastor. Maybe you have to have a few different people give you advice. We're lucky in the world today. We are not limited, you know, but then also between those people, there's probably nobody that really can fully satisfy you, because your seventh house is unsatisfying. So it's not very easy to be totally satisfied in what other people say and do. But there are going to be others maybe after these people that can help you. So if you are really in the pickle socially and in your marriage, be careful with that also, because I think that some people can fail a relationship, and there could be a very big karmic breakup that doesn't leave their auric space, you know, that they can never mend. So here, you know, it's more about finding supports and friends to take care of you. It's not just like about being like a person on their own, just roaming the world. But it can be also that. It's just about protecting yourself from injuries, which is what Saturn usually has an air of injuries, protecting yourself from injuries, and also other people's lives, so not to be accidentally swooped into a story with another person's expectations and another person's culture. But it is maybe about cross-pollinating and trying to find a way for certain people that have not been brought up with any alternative, and eventually try to clean up basically the messes of yesteryear, because there's some very karmic old school messes that Saturn and Pisces wants to fix. And it is good to let them run dry. It's good to let those experiences come, any kind of fights or any kind of conglomerates that you don't like and also that you do, to understand and to learn and to become more, I suppose, primitive in the thinking patterns and to start over. But there is also a price to pay in some religions and some ethnic group for any kind of situations that might be dear to your heart, but to Saturn they're not. So that's really, really hard. That's really, really grateful time, I suppose, to really see a psychic or a therapist, because there are some people that really feel something like a strong push or a pull or an emotion, but their reality just says no, there's only one way. And that's really, really hard. So if women, for example, have no other choice, they don't have an education, they don't have their own say, they just have to stay with a husband all their life. But they're noticing that their heart is saying no, and they just don't care about it anymore. That's really hard. So that's where maybe global organizations and other conglomerates of people and women can be of help to certain people. Thank you very much. Enjoy, and I will see you next time.